Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick King, and you are here for another edition of Sustainable Nashville Live, the show that connects the public with those individuals in and around Nashville committed to making it a more sustainable city. And today I am here with Caroline Koster. Caroline is the energy manager with Metro Nashville Public Schools. A couple of things to go over before we get started. First things first, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so now. Just search Urban Green Lab on YouTube, click the bell to subscribe. You'd be doing us a favor there. Secondly, and lastly, Urban Green Lab is a nonprofit, so if you feel so compelled to support the work that we do, feel free to make a donation on our website, urbangreenlab.org, or you can text 44321 on your cell phone and get a link sent directly to your phone, and you can make a donation through there. That's all I got for you at the top of this. First things first, Caroline, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much, Patrick, for asking. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a little bit warmer today, which is nice. Yeah, it's a nice day.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for being here. And I guess to get us started, could you tell us what an energy manager does and some of the work that you do with Mnps?
Sure. So first of all, I would say that an energy manager's day is never the same.
Mm-hmm.
So in the role that I am in now, it is completely flexible on the issue at hand that day,
Okay.
is what I would say. So during the COVID shutdowns, we had to be very flexible to the school district, Metro Nashville Public School, where we are currently working. We had to make sure that we were able to still do our work without having the physical buildings available in the same capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So our main job is overall reducing the amount of energy that is being used. That's the number one goal. And everything around that is data analyzation, building analyzation, working with HVAC, and my specialty is doing the education side. So making sure everybody knows why we're saving energy and of course how.
Excellent. That is I feel like you might have answered that question before. Excellent. So I guess maybe just to kind of expound on that question, what are some of the educational things that maybe someone who's not familiar with Mmps but wants to conserve energy would need to know?
Sure. So this is one of my favorite questions.
Excellent.
Yes, because people have such a wide view of what it means to be sustainable, right? It's sort of to me, it's a very personal word.
Yeah.
Everyone's lives are very different. What we consume is very different. How we live, very different. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I think a lot of people consider when they need to be sustainable, they have to go out and like change their entire lives, go out and start purchasing the most sustainable or eco-friendly products.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to do that. So in my mind, as a sustainability educator, is the first thing I tell people is to evaluate what you're using and what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the first things first is just reduce. Just reduce.
Yeah.
I'm not saying start changing everything. You don't have to go out and buy the newest water bottle or the newest chapstick that's, and then have this cabinet full of new products. Just reduce what you're using and consume less.
Yeah.
That's my number one tell to everyone, my friends, everyone, because I get texts all the time that are like, Caroline, look at this new product I saw, for a new conditioner or shampoo in this new packaging. And I'm like, how many shampoos and conditioners do you already have that you should use first? And so that's the first thing is use what you have and then reduce. Go to the store. Do you need to buy that? Just do you need that? Before you start going too far into the weeds and trying to change the overall picture, always look at your own life as well.
Yeah, no. And so speaking of questions that you've answered, that's actually one that I have often with folks I'm meeting out in the community and with my own friends. There's a reason it's reduce, reuse, recycle. There's a reason reduce is the first one, because that typically is the one that has the most impact and also will cost you nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in turn, will save you money. If you are consuming less, that's less you have to go out into the world and bring into your own home. Uh, yeah. Yeah. Could not agree with you more there. That was a great answer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Um, how has COVID, you already mentioned this, but how has COVID impacted the work that you do, considering, the phasing in of schools this year?
So, looking on the bright side, we
Mm-hmm.
found the silver lining within the pandemic for school district energy management.
Okay.
So for my role, we are part of Mnps Energy, which is the informal energy conservation department within the maintenance formal department
Okay.
at Metro Nashville Public Schools. And before the pandemic and before the shutdowns, we were never able to go into any of the district sites and really see what they're like with nobody in them.
Yeah.
It's, you think, school is out at 2:30 to 3:30, then there's after school activities until 5. The custodians are often there until midnight or 11 o'clock p.m. And then, of course, there's weekend activities. We have renters. They rent out the cafeterias and the gyms. It's a nonstop working area.
Mm-hmm.
So for energy management, we could never really see what is using energy, what is wasting energy, where, why, what's going on until these shutdowns. So in the second week of March, the teachers were like, we're not returning to school. And it was almost like people left the building standing still because they didn't get the time to unplug, turn off, shut down, nothing.
Yeah.
So we went in there when it was deemed safe. So it was about a week later. And we were able to see what it's like for these sites to just be running with nobody in there.
Yeah.
And we were able to see so much that we didn't know. What is being wasted? What do people leave on? What is actually being used in some of these classrooms? And most of the time, there's a lot of stuff plugged in, hidden behind bookshelves. And we did audits of every single site. And we went through and we did manual shutdowns. So we unplugged, turned off, and closed. So we closed all the lights, closed the blinds, doors, air conditioning, everything. So we manually shut down 141 schools essentially.
Wow.
I know, it was super fun.
Yeah. Well, just on top of it being probably really fun, like just the amount of like useful data that you all probably got from that. Like,
Unbelievable.
hey, here is a baseline of the amount of energy that schools are using just passively when no one's there. And I'm just imagining you can do so much with that to like just make predictions and expectations. And then also kind of just going in and manually shutting everything down. Like there's probably some cost savings there as well.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so one of the takeaways from that, so the first audit we did, we had a team of 3 consultants, me included, and then we had some people helping us from the district side. So essentially it was a mixed team of about 5 core people that went around and did that manual shutdown. It took us about 2 months. So that was the first one. That was like shutting everything down, making sure energy wasn't going to be wasted, air conditioning wasn't blowing in empty hallways. Then we did 3 more audits after that. So we are currently on our 4th audit right now. And after every audit, we gave ourselves very specific audit sheets in which data points we wanted to collect for that time.
Okay.
So now we've been through each school almost 4 times each during this transitional period of shutdowns and minimal occupancy.
Yeah.
And now we have an amazing baseline of what appliances are in there. We have physical counts of appliances that were left on and left plugged in. We counted over 4,000 appliances on that first audit that were left on and plugged in. That is a lot.
Wow.
That's just a lot of mini fridges, you can imagine.
Yeah.
A lot of energy draw there. And so now when we give these estimates of how we're going to reach our energy goal of 16% reduction by year 2025, we know this has to be done. We have the physical counts, the physical data. If stop all this, we get this. So this has been an unbelievably valuable time to get this data. So that's a silver lining for us.
I mean, that is one heck of a silver lining. That's really awesome. And you touched off a little bit on some goals. So we're going to put a pin in that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, coming up later. But for right now, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of got interested in this line of work?
Sure. So I wanted to be an environmentalist, whatever that term meant, ever since I was little.
Yeah.
I grew up at the beach in Santa Monica, California. My dad actually works for the island of Catalina, out,
Okay.
off the coast. So I was just, of course, a lot of people talk about this. When you're in a place that you care about and you're connected to the environment so closely, you get this natural bond with it. So without even really studying it in school at that time, I developed the bond. So from school, I was always interested in science and the marine environment. And then in college, I majored in environmental studies and anthropology to study humans interacting with our natural world. In graduate school, I studied the same thing, have my master's in that. And my focus always was the human side. So I believe that we have to learn how to adapt to many different possibilities. And it's so easy for people to be like, stop doing that, we have to save this, save that. Yeah. But everyone has to work together and really find a solution that is going to have the least impact on all things. Yeah. And it's a very, very, very challenging role to be in. So every day is a puzzle. Every day is like, well, this is happening, but we can't just shut this down because so-and-so will, it's 95 degrees in that room. We can't shut off the AC. Yeah. Everything is finding the right solution with the minimal impact on the natural world. And then of course us. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, that's just like, that's like textbook definition systems thinking. Like you can't have one thing without the other, but there is work to be done to find a solution that, works for everything as opposed to like negatively impacting one sector and, not the other. Exactly. So that is, and this is my third public school district. Okay. And third region. I'm trying to get all the regions in the US. Okay. Of holding an on-site full-time either energy manager position or sustainability manager position on-site. But if non-technically, I've been a consultant for many other public school districts, as well as when I was in college in Geneva, New York, I worked as the environmental educator with that district as well. So I'm trying to see the different regions, the different types of public schools, different weather patterns, minds, community, how that impacts what students are involved in the school district for sustainability. That is really beautiful, kind of just taking, or I guess attempting to take on America as far as like energy systems are concerned as it relates to school. That is nuanced and beautiful. And how many regions are there in America for school districts? If you could break that down in your own words. I would say, the West Coast. Okay. Well, this is weird because I worked for Olympia School District in Olympia, Washington, and the Pacific Northwest is very different than California. Okay. You think, politically it's similar and progress towards sustainability is similar. Yeah. But different regions. I mean, my Santa Monica, California school district, where I came right before moving to Nashville, very different. It was a smaller district, very dry air. We had fire disasters all the time. None of those schools really had air conditioning. So the energy story is so different from coming to Nashville, where we rely on artificial temperature control all the time, almost every day. Yeah. So just that alone, looking at the sustainability is a completely different focus than I had before. Yeah. And another difference is water. So water was always my focus in California. California water is just so important to us. It's a problem every day. Here, I mean, it was when I first moved here, it was raining like every day. Yeah. So water and the concerns around water are not as heightened as in California. So the education around it, there's not much water education going on or water conservation education. Yeah. So these are some of the differences that I see by region. But I would say, East Coast, Pacific Northwest. I've never done, the New Mexico region, Arizona. That'd be very interesting. Probably more water issues. So I wanna
try and go around the country and see what we can do to make it
Excellent.
more cohesive. Yeah.
Well, hey, when you have a white paper or a book on that, let us know. We would love to tell everybody about it. Yeah.
It's a good like PhD dissertation.
For sure. And maybe we should cut that out so nobody gets any ideas. um, yeah, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next up, what is something you believe most folks would be surprised to learn about MNPS energy usage?
MMPS is using too much energy,
Mm-hmm.
bottom line. In our studies, they are using over the nation's amount of energy.
Okay.
So we used to use an exact percentage, but that was an outdated percentage based on the new year. So we don't have that. But it is, more than 10% of the national's average use of school districts of similar size. So comparably, Metro Nashville is using more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a surprising fact because energy is really hard to see. It's not waste that's piled up and it smells and it pulls at the heartstrings. It's not water faucets running like in California.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, outdoor education. Something about energy is really hard to connect people to because we can't really see the waste unless you're concerned about it or unless you look at lights.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time we rely on electricity and natural gas always being there for our pleasure. Like we need it, we turn on the switch. Mm-hmm. We're so grateful. And because, faculty and staff and community members don't pay the energy bills for the public schools, they don't see the direct impact of how much that waste could be taking away from in-class learning, fixing these very old buildings, updating systems. We really need to make sure that on the cost side as well, we're reducing that amount because it is important.
And that's really leads into my next question very nicely. So where are some of the areas that Metro Nashville Public Schools can improve to conserve more energy? An example of this could be really easy one, switching from incandescent light bulbs to LEDs or something like that.
So the simplest, it's very interesting that you said that because most people automatically jump to things that are changing the actual infrastructure, changing out light bulbs, getting solar, more infrastructure, updating the buildings, right? Yes, those would be very significant impacts if we had the budget and the time and the ability to knock down some of these old buildings and rebuild them from the ground up, right? That would be number one best thing to do. Yeah. We don't have that, right? Yeah. So unfortunately, we're dealing with some very old schools, very old infrastructure, outdated electrical, stuff like that. Old HVAC systems, not so efficient. Yeah. So the easiest and best way that MNPS, this is from all of our studies, all our data analysis, everything that we've done right now to meet that goal is we call it the big three. So it's turn off lights. This sounds so elementary, you'd be surprised. Every school is basically illuminated all the time. So turn off your lights no matter what, even if they're on a sensor. This is a really big one. Sensors are not reliable and they sometimes pick up other movement in the middle of the night and they get locked on or they don't work. It's endless. Close windows, doors, and blinds. And the reason for that is the third one, which is the HVAC. Making sure, and HVAC, like heating, cooling, and ventilation, making sure the thermostats are set to the correct set points. So cost-wise and usage-wise, heating and cooling use the most in MMPS for electricity and natural gas. And followed by, the cooking side. Cooking uses a lot of the natural gas as well. And then there's lighting and IT equipment are the other heightened uses in the district. So that's really where we want people to concentrate on. And we really don't want people coming into their classroom, turning the thermostat down to, 68 degrees, leaving for the day, door open, cold air blasting through the, drafty hallways, lights on, blinds, everything. All of these very tiny behavior changes are the best thing everybody can do.
somehow muted myself
It-
there. I was making a whole point. I was gonna say, and those are things folks can like apply to their lives at home as
oh
well to cut
yeah, yeah.
costs. Yeah, yeah.
It's cost free.
Mm-hmm.
We're not asking anyone to break their back to do these. These are
Yeah.
very, very simple measures. And you know what's funny about how simple they are? People write them off because they're so simple.
Yeah.
I often get this question like, well, what else can we be doing? There's so much you could be doing, but we just went into your classroom and unfortunately there's holiday lights up, there's lamps left on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that because people may overlook as too simple, they're still not doing.
Yeah.
So again, just focusing in on those simple things first before we move forward.
Yeah. And it's also easier to have kind of like a condensed list of like, well, yes, there are a lot of things we can be doing, but if we really just focus on these, that'll give us the ability to focus on those and like have those
Exactly.
like coming down the line and also save us money in the meantime. It's just,
Exactly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, for sure. So you mentioned some energy reduction goals. So does MMPS have any energy reduction goals for the school system over the next few years?
We do.
Okay.
So the overall goal is to reduce our energy consumption, that's electricity and natural gas, by 20% by year 2025.
Okay.
So within that goal, the first goal was the first year, which was the year that we currently just sort of started the new fiscal year. So 2020 fiscal year was reduced by 8%. We exceeded that. Luckily, the shutdown sort of helped with that because the schools all closed in the spring, which was unexpected. But we were expecting to reach that just from these behavioral measures as well and doing all of our utility data analysis. So a little background onto how that goal came about is when MNPS came together, this was about a year ago, number one, sustainability is now, a goal of the school district. And number two, they realized they're using too much energy. So when SiteLogic, the consulting company, was hired in January of 2020 of this year, we came up with MNPS Energy, our team, our informal department, and we came up with how and why and what we can do within these 5 years. And so really that's the background story to everything that we're doing. So we formed, I think we're saying we technically formed our, conservation program in January 2020.
Okay.
And we are definitely exceeding our goals because of the shutdowns, but also because people have stepped up. I will say this, so hopefully none of my other districts are watching this, but out of all the districts I've worked with, MNPS has been the most receptive, just eager to learn and open-armed district I have ever worked with this. And sustainability is hard because we're asking people to essentially change behavior change. One of the hardest things to do, right? Getting people to change. I mean, it's so hard.
Yeah.
And MNPS, has been so open to at least listening to us.
Yeah. And
they're eager to get training and they're involved and they get their classrooms involved. And it took no time at all to get everyone to stand up and sort of take it on because we're sort of asking them, there's only 3 of us. We're asking them, we can't solve the energy, issue of the district, but we can train you exactly what you need to do. So if everybody steps up and does it together, we will exceed these goals for sure. Yeah. So we're sort of relying on people to take leadership of their own space and their own consumption.
Yeah. Well, no one is a better steward of their own classroom than the teacher who, teaches out of there. Yeah. And also big shout out to MMPS. Take that, Olympia. I'm just kidding. No shade to Olympia, Washington. You're fine. So that also, you've been doing a really good job of this, leads into my next question.
Oh, good.
What's been one of your greatest accomplishments or challenge that you've had to overcome in your work with MNPS or one of those other school districts who weren't as agreeable? You can choose.
Sure. I will start with the challenge first, because with the challenge comes, the reward.
Mm-hmm.
The number one challenge I have as a professional in the environmental field, whether I'm specifically doing energy or I'm just doing general sustainability,
Uh-huh.
is the behavior change
Yeah.
and getting people to, it's not do it what we're asking, it's more even be open to the idea.
Yeah.
It's even getting people to give us the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
In school districts, the reason why this niche is so small, there's not that many sustainable leaders in public school districts. It's a new thing. A lot of public school districts are getting on-site sustainability coordinators and managers, but this is a pretty new sort of development, to make like a district-wide sustainability plan as opposed to just some teachers being passionate and then just seeing what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And with this challenge, it's like teachers are super busy, staff and faculty in general, busy, cram schedules,
Mm-hmm.
everything else that goes with the stresses of working in a public school district are prominent. They're there.
Yeah.
Asking them to start changing the way that they run things, especially people who have done their certain job for about 20 years or so, is very difficult.
Yeah.
And also challenge is getting a cohesive, program, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually do district-wide sustainability plans, because it's very hard. So when we have some people who are super interested in waste reduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few teachers that take that on. But just let's say they're doing recycling program or a composting program,
Mm-hmm.
and they take it from 3 schools. What about the rest of the infrastructure in the school district? What happens when those teachers leave or retire?
Yeah.
Or what happens if they move to a new school? What happens if there's a snowstorm that knocks out all of the veggie gardens and then they don't have the funding again the next year to build that back up?
Yeah.
All of this needs infrastructure behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why sustainability in schools is super hard, because there's not usually a huge infrastructure put in place for water, waste, energy, outdoor education, transportation. All of this needs to be funded, number
Mm-hmm.
one, have staff as their primary goal to make sure things keep running, and not just rely on one person to stand up and do it.
Yeah.
Because then it falls apart. And this is a common story in public school districts.
Yeah.
But the benefit and the absolute best part about this work is every day is different. It's so flexible. There's no one size fits all for any sort of sustainability plan or program. You have to be so adaptive.
Yeah.
And, I do the education side, and I'll design this program and I'll give it to, a few teachers, whether they do it or not, is up to them. We leave everything up to them. And then I'll get feedback. This part really worked for us, but not this part. The students had had a hard time with this part. Okay, then we change it to work for you. The other teacher has different,
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure in their classroom. So then we adapt to all of our programs to make it work for everybody. And that's like the best part about this work, because it's so interesting. It's problem solving. I get to talk to so many different people, and then you physically see the change.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally see it with your eye, people standing up and doing it. And
Yeah.
that's the best thing. I'm not behind a computer. Well, now I am, but usually not.
Uh-huh.
Usually we're not, but it's like you see the change. And
Yeah.
that's all you can ask for. If we see 5 people change, that is amazing. And then they're the leaders for everybody else.
Yeah. That first thing. That was a very glowing response. I found there's so many like little bits and pieces that I want to just.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Let's see if I can try and organize my thoughts a little bit. But I mean, that's just a great answer. I thought it was very interesting how, at a systems level, like prescribing, like this is what we need to be doing.
Yep.
So where it's like broad, to where like overarching, here's what we need to be doing to get to the levels we want. But at the same time, it's specific insofar as, well, this worked for this school and these teachers, this worked for these schools and these teachers, like being adaptable as well as like while working within like a broad constraint. I don't know. I found that kind of duality very interesting. And I totally agree with you in like, working in my job with Urban Green Lab. And I also realize I'm rambling, so I'm sorry.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. In my job with working with Urban Green Lab, like I've seen that like on a smaller scale as well, where it's, there's no one size fits all,
Yeah.
but there is a mutual goal that we all should be working towards and to.
Yep.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, really, really appreciate the work you're doing. And it's also just very nice to, just to see how passionate you are about it as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I have just one more question for you. Is there any way students and parents can help further MMPS's energy reduction goals?
Absolutely. That's the best question of all. We are dying for people to assist us,
Mhm.
basically, or even reach out. That would make my day if people could shoot me an email. We have a wide variety of ways they could get involved. On the student level, it sort of relies, on the teacher or a parent to, assist. But we have the education program. We have the physical education part where we have a program where students become like the energy managers or the energy detectives for their school site.
Okay.
Of course, the transitioning period of how school is right now, it's probably not the priority, but they physically go around and they shut down the schools, do the things that we're asking of everyone.
Yeah.
Teachers of course, we are so eager for them to reach out so we can work together and come up with a program that works for them. Even we've adapted a lot to at-home energy audits. So we give that to the students to do it at home. So they, bother their parents about, unplugging the coffee machine when they're done with it. I actually get hate mail from telling students about that because then people in the morning rely on their automated coffee machine, to have it ready.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't get made for them. So I've actually had parents very mad at me for telling them to unplug it. So I think
My
that's
coffee.
yeah, because they're all, they're expecting it
Yeah.
and grouchy and rushing, and then the coffee machine was unplugged.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And then we're always just willing to work with anyone who's interested to learn from us. We could do training. We could, we're all experts in different areas, and we've had people reach out that are really just interested in like the renewable energy side and want to learn more. We do that as well. I used to work a lot in solar out in California. So anything like that, I just love to share. Anything at all. Anything people want to know, we can come up with something, read our blog, just anything.
Okay.
Would be amazing.
Excellent.
So please reach out to me. I would love that.
All right. Well, Carolyn, that's all I have for you today. What is the best way for folks to get in touch with you in the energy chain?
I would say email.
Okay.
So email my personal email, which you have, which I'm sure you're going to write down. And then we also have our group email, which is our department email, which is just mnpsenergy@mmps.org. Which I'll also give you.
All right.
And both of those, we have access to both.
All right. So yeah, if you are a concerned student or parent, get in touch, do your part, make something beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh.
Are we not ending?
We're not done just as yet. I guess one final question before we go. Are there, I know things are a little bit weird with schools, but are there any events or any things like that you would like to plug to viewers? Or I feel like you've already done a good job of that with possibly them getting started with their own energy programs at their schools, but.
I would say look out for when we are back safely in buildings. We are going to be doing a lot of energy competitions with some incentives.
Okay.
So we have the ability to track, every school's energy usage, up to date. And so we're going to do a lot of competitions where people take charge and see which school can win by saving the most energy in a certain time period. So that's one thing. But most of the stuff is more online right now because probably unsafe for us to be in buildings and doing some energy audits still. But I will let you know if there is any events.
Okay, excellent. So that is going to officially do it for our conversation with Caroline Koster, Mnps Energy Manager Extraordinaire. Next week, we'll be speaking with Chris Kozja of Lightwave Solar. If you have any questions for Chris or you want to get in touch with me and let me know about any other organizations that you would like to learn more about, my email address is patrick@urbangreenlab.org. Feel free to drop me a line. And until next time, remember to live sustainably.